Florida Democrat congressional candidate, Oliver Larkin. So, Oliver, listen, we appreciate you coming on the show. You know, it takes some guts to do so. So I want to say thank you and a lot of respect to you for doing it. You know, I've done a little bit of research into your district there, and aside from all the things that are making headlines with you and, of course, the incumbent in the race, I just have to ask, you know, my mother-in-law fled Cuba because of the socialist communist takeover. So I know in your district there's a lot of folks like my mother-in-law, a lot of Cubans, a lot of Venezuelans that left socialism, that fled communism, and it kind of sounds like you want to bring it all right here to the USA and to Florida. How do you square that with a lot of those constituents in Florida that have a similar story?
I think what a lot of our constituents that have come from places like Cuba or Nicaragua or Venezuela that have seen United States foreign policy, we've had a blockade on Cuba and a trade embargo for 70, 80 years nearly. And what we've seen in that time is the repression of trade and of really with our closest trade partner. And we see a repression of political and civil rights that we actually see emanating from the Trump administration right now. We see crackdowns on freedom of speech. We see Representative Randy Fine and Laura Loomer trying to cancel our rally last night, along with corporate Democrats like State Representative Michael Gottlieb. So I think the conditions that a lot of people flee places like Cuba, coming to America looking for a better life, it's actually quite scary to see a Republican administration that's going after our freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and we're fighting for the American dream.
So, Oliver, I'm going to let the rest of the panel here ask you some questions. I'm not going to filibuster the whole time, but I do have to say, when my mother-in-law and so many others fled Cuba or Venezuela, they didn't flee because of Donald Trump. They fled because of socialism and communism and that form of economic governance that you're trying to bring here. So I just wanted to correct the record for that, because blaming that on Trump is kind of rich. But I'm going to let the rest of the team take a crack at you again. We appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, Mr. Larkin. So I did a little research myself. Some of these numbers you may have a better idea on, but one of the things on your platform is free college for all. You're advocating for socialism, but you want free college for all. Okay, you want taxpayers to pay for other people's tuition. Fair enough. But I mean, you went to a school that's almost $80,000 a year, a private school, to become an English teacher to make $60,000 a year, which is national average.
What? He went to school and paid $80,000 a year, and the national average is only $60,000. First of all, that degree should be illegal. Second of all, look at the smirk on his face. Now I get it. You're not supposed to flinch, I guess, but you look totally crazy when you don't flinch at something like this. You know what I mean? No normal person does this other than somebody whose probably parents are well off. I don't know a single person in my life that has taken on debt like that and hasn't actually used their degree or actually got a degree that pays them more than $80,000 a year. That's outrageous.
We have a deficit of trade skills, making $70,000, $80,000, $90,000. HVAC, electrician, pipe fitter, you name it, lineman. The state of Florida has a scholarship program if you just stay in state and go to a state school. So I guess my question is, why are you out here advocating for socialism in a state where capitalism does work well when it seems like you haven't really tried it yourself?
Well, we have a higher cost of living in the Miami metropolitan area now than New York City, and we've had 30 years of Republican rule in Tallahassee. So this stark income and wealth inequality, where we see my district, the 25th congressional district, having the highest concentration of billionaires in the country. At the same time, we see the poverty rate going up, and we have tens of millions of people in this country with student loan debt. So I believe that we need free public college and
That makes no difference. I mean, if you think about it, the people with student loan debt, pretty much every point that he just made was not that good. I mean, at the end of the day, poverty to some degree is a choice, to some degree, because the same people in poverty don't decide to make very many changes. Now, that's not to say that they always have the opportunity. But let's just be honest, when the opportunity presents, most people don't take it. Why? For a number of reasons. But in general, to say that millions of people have student loan debt, Yes, because the government got involved with student loans. That's a very I mean, there's a very clear line of data that tells us like when student loans got backed by the government, that student loan debt went up because the schools charged more money. So again, I don't understand, and I think it's on purpose, quite frankly, because these people are educated, so they know better. They know better. I think it's these 5 minutes like sections of like going on Fox News or going on CNN, and really they need like a 2 hour podcast with a neutral party to just like give me your long form answers here. Because I guarantee you they aren't well thought out, or they don't make sense, or they're basically saying, just trust us, we're going to wreck everything. And then once we make it so bad for you guys, then and we're the only option because we've wrecked everything, then you'll choose us. That's basically what I get from these people.
University tuition, and also free
Okay.
tuition at
Fair
vocational
enough.
and trade
Fair
schools,
enough. Well,
with support for union apprenticeships so that we can rebuild America.
Okay, so you're talking about union apprenticeship, so at least you acknowledge that trades matter, but you want us to go and pay off the debt of people who went to a $70,000 a year school to earn $60,000 a year for the trade or the skill that they picked. It seems to me like through your own experience, you would be out there beating the drum for people to maybe forego a private school or a 4-year college and go to a trade school, learn how to be a lineman, learn how to be a welder, learn how to do the blue-collar trades that pay very well, especially in the South and right-to-work states.
The United States can more than afford to forgive college loan debt.
No, that makes zero sense. It's not even about affording to do it. Even if the country could afford to do it, which it can't, I think this has more to do with the decision making. And yes, they were sold the dream to go to school. So there's plenty of degrees that are pretty much worthless. But the idea that, hey, we've I know that we've done bad so far, but let's just continue to do, actually, in fact, no, let's do more of what we were doing before that gave us these bad results. And then that should solve and or pave over the bad results. Dude, it does not work that way. And to be quite I'm gonna be honest, it's really sad that this is like some of the people running in a Democratic Party. Like when you see people in the Republican Party, like Ken Paxton and other people who are like pretty, I mean, like pretty basically not good people. Like this is the exact opposite. This is like a psychopathic uncle. Like he's gonna look you right in your face and tell you that like, no, there's no razor blades in the candy. Just eat the candy.
Debt and to make tuition free.
My
We're spending
taxes
$1 to
can't.
$2 billion a day on
It's
this
not the
illegal
United
war
States,
with
it's
Iran.
Joey Jones, right? It's you. It's everybody that makes more
we're
than
on track
poverty
to spend
that pays
hundreds
taxes.
of billions of dollars a year on a war that Congress never authorized, that Donald Trump dragged us into, that is raising our prices on gasoline, on food, on groceries.
Would you agree to at least exempt those that went to private school that cost more than?
Now, I do believe that they do need to deal with the argument that he's making. And I think, to be honest, the reason why people like this exist is because the right does not deal with these things. Why is it that we are spending hundreds of billions of dollars on war? Pretty much, it seems like perpetually. Why? Why do we have to wake up and the poverty level, like the homeless is more, there's more homeless, there's the roads are worse, our water is, why do we have to wake up and deal with that? While we're also spending hundreds of billions. I mean, we literally just, if I'm not mistaken, in the last week, we just spent about $15 billion in combination with Japan in order to bail out the Japanese currency for whatever reason. So whenever it's needed for like financial reasons to keep up the house of cards, there's no problem spending the money. But whenever it's time to help out actual Americans, it's just like, I don't want to say the big beautiful bill, but what was that tax bill that came? Well, basically both of them really. You give out a small amount, 200 or 300 billion to the American people, and then you give away like 1.8 trillion to the corporations. Like we're sick and tired of that. But the reason why these people exist is because of that. And the only people you can blame is the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. It's both of them. I mean, you like them, like them for different reasons or hate them for different reasons. It doesn't matter. They are all screwing us if you really think about it. I mean, they do actually, they don't all hate each other. I mean, if you really think about Congress, only about 15 or 20% of them or less are the people you see on TV. So what does the other 80% do? They are probably cool with each other, mostly on the same page, same donors, like same parties. Like this is all a game. So like it's not about Republican or Democrat. This is about good ideas versus bad ideas at the end of the day.
More than they could make in a year in the profession they picked.
I'm talking about making public university tuition free, so private
Like
institutions
Florida,
can continue to do what they like. But
GPA.
like I said, I think that public universities should be tuition free, but private institutions can choose to do as they may. And I'm not running to abolish private universities, but I do think that in the United States, when we have tens of millions of people, when we invest in our educational system, when we invest in our economy, that economic output is more than multiplied by the output of people who are better educated or have the vocational or trade apprenticeships that can go in and produce in the economy.
Well, Oliver, Lisa Booth here. It's interesting that you say that because you've attended some of the most elite institutions in the country. As Joey pointed out, Phillips Academy, it's one of the most prestigious boarding schools.
It's funny how he smirks, but it really just points at like, this is the elitism that people are talking about with the Democratic Party. They don't think it means anything, but this boarding school probably costs tens of thousands of dollars a year to attend. And this is not college. He's probably talking about like a high school.
Schools in the country. You also went to Swanee, which is very preppy, very elite. A lot of wealthy people go to school there. So some people might look at that and maybe think you're a little bit of a hypocrite on some of this stuff. But I've got to ask you, why do you think you're entitled to other people's money?
I'm not entitled to anyone else's money. I'm talking about universal programs that we all pay into. Many of your viewers that
how do you
support
fund those?
programs like Medicare and Social Security that. Well, when we have, like I said, $1 to $2 billion a day that we're spending on an illegal war with Iran, we can more than afford this. We've spent $2 trillion on wars with Iraq and Afghanistan that I was seeing in the previous segment. We're now talking about the downfall of the United States foreign policy regime that really just replaced the Taliban with the Taliban. So we've seen so much of our blood and treasure go into foreign wars overseas that have not made Americans safer.
But you've still not
and we've seen a declining standard of living.
Entitled to other people's money.
I'm not entitled to anyone else's money. I'm talking about universal programs that we all pay into. And for the millions of Americans that are struggling with affording the cost of their children's college education or paying down their student loan debt, when we invest in the
I just feel like the way that he is speaking is like we're all entitled to a degree and that we all have to get a degree. And like that is the whole socialist argument, right? That like we all have to be on the same playing field. We all need to get the same carrot. We all need to, it's like, come on, dude. Like, to be honest, I don't even know how young people are falling for this.
The American people, that economic output is more than multiplied when we see their educational attainment, their trade school, their vocational programs, all putting money back into the economy with greater labor productivity. We're seeing a real negatively affected jobs program in this country, the economy with people no longer seeking work.
Oliver, let me ask you this. You know, as someone, who have attended some of these elite institutions that most Americans could never afford, they could never even dream of affording, how can you sit there and talk about income inequality and talk about some of these different things when you're the living definition of someone who has experienced great privilege of some of these incredibly elite institutions? So how do you square that hypocrisy?
I certainly have attended some prestigious institutions, and I'm very proud of the background that I come from. My father is a retired United States Army captain who was able to attain his college education through the ROTC program. And when we see what the United States military service was able to provide for my family to climb out of the lower middle class and really attain a level of economic achievement in this country, to be able to invest in their children, I'm very proud of my background, and I'm going to stand by it. And I believe that the motto of Phillips Exeter Academy of non-SIBI, not for oneself, is something that I'm putting back into public service, and seeing that we do not need to just restrict the highest levels of educational attainment to private institutions in this country, that we can invest in public education so that we can all stay.
The kids cannot read or write. When he says we need to invest in public education, what exactly does that mean? I feel like somebody needs to lay out exactly, like, the Americans that matter can read. Just give us the plan. Because if the kids already can't read, the public education system is the biggest education system there is. I mean, these private schools don't compare. They may have better grades, etc., but they don't compare. But in general, if more money per student is being spent at a public school and that money is spent more efficiently at a private school, I don't understand the problem. Also, if there is competition and there's a way for the money to be fluid, then wouldn't that be better for the kids to have choice? I really don't understand these people.
Stand to benefit from the really robust educational infrastructure that I enjoyed growing up. I want to see every single American be able to enjoy that same thing, and I think most of the viewers would also want their children or their grandchildren. Well, not if we're continuing this illegal war with Iran that we're 6 months into, that even a majority of Republican voters think is just a catastrophe.
Oliver, appreciate you coming on. Clay Travis here. You're obviously very concerned with giving people as many benefits as possible, but you also want to abolish ICE. We're $40 trillion in debt. Presumably, a lot of the free tuition would potentially, under your plan, go to illegal immigrants. We know roughly there are at least 20 million people illegally in this country. Should there be borders? What would be too much illegal immigration for you? 50 million? 100 million? You talked about Cuba. You talked about Nicaragua, Venezuela. Should we take all of Latin America inside of our borders? Where would you draw the line when it comes to who we should welcome in this country?
I would draw the line at stopping these crushing sanctions regimes that Donald Trump.
Wow. Wow. I'm getting so sick and tired of politicians who just basically don't answer the question. I mean, it's a real legitimate question. At the end of the day, there is a certain number that harms the population. If you don't care about the population, we need to know about that. This is sickening to watch, quite frankly. Again, I don't understand why young people are going for the. Well, I guess I do understand. It's the neglect of both parties, quite frankly. But in general, even with that neglect, I still don't buy anything that these people are talking about. The DSA can basically flame the hell out, for as far as I'm concerned. No ideas that they've come up with make any sense because there's no detail, and it basically is kumbaya, pie in the sky. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. These people are a part of the shit show we will call the Democrat Party going forward.